camera. Look, it does the little YouTuber thing where, you know, when you're like, and this is my new product here. See, it works. Oh my gosh. I'm dead. I feel like I'm a real YouTuber now. I don't know. I probably never will be. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna do everything I can to not stare at the viewfinder. I'm gonna try and stare at you. That is what is most important here. I'm so new to having nicer things, and it is very rewarding. Okay, today I'm going to talk to you guys about Supermarket, this book here, Supermarket by Bobby Hall, aka Logic. So if you've ever listened to the rapper or heard of the rapper Logic, this is his novel. It's not a autobiography, it's not a true story. This is strictly a novel that he came up with. It came out in 2019, so like 2 years ago, and I actually bought it like the day that it came out because I'm a huge Logic fan, but I never got around to reading it because I just have never been good at dedicating myself and my time to books. It sounds terrible, but I just always get busy or whatever. Well, there came a point in my life where thanks to COVID, I had to quarantine for about 25 days, and this was at the beginning of my boot camp experience, and this was one of the books that I brought with me because I knew I always wanted to read it, but I never got around to it. So I figured I'd bring it, and you know, what a more perfect time than to read Supermarket. Let me just say, I was extremely surprised with the storyline and everything. I'm not going to tell you guys everything because I want you to read the book. It's decently short, 270 pages around. The font is pretty big for the most part. It's an easy read. You could read this in a day or two if you were dedicated enough. So it talks about, the book is narrated by the main character, and his name is Flynn, and he's kind of this like nobody guy. He's like 22, 23, living at home, and his girlfriend dumps him because he's nobody. Basically is like an aspiring author, but nothing has ever been published by him, and he's always struggled and been kind of lazy about his hobby. Well, he finally gets a book deal, and basically he has to get this job at the supermarket to help inspire him to write. That's basically what the book is about. There are some really interesting things that happen in the book, and he talks a lot about depression and anxiety and love. It's just some crazy things. The first half of the book is like so normal and so like you just think like Flynn is a normal guy, and in the second half of the book, his whole world, the world that is built up around who you think you know from the character, is like completely flipped, and it's insane. It's an insane concept, and it's so interesting to dive into a book where you can kind of put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has a mental illness. And it's not just any mental illness, it's a little bit of schizophrenia, multiple personality disorder, but you want to believe that Flynn is a good guy. That book definitely portrays him still as a good guy, and he's just struggling, and he deserves all of the good things, and he doesn't deserve what he's going through. And the storyline is just so interesting. I don't understand how he came up with this concept of how to tell a story like this, and you see a lot of characteristics in Flynn that you would see in Logic, like himself. Like if you know anything about him or his life, there are some similarities between anxiety and depression, and just like the things that Logic has said in his own interviews before. I think he loosely based Flynn off of himself. So I read it once all the way through, and my mind was blown. I was confused, but it still kind of made sense here and there. But then I decided to reread it twice. So I read this like 3 times, specifically the first half. So it's split into 2 like parts. The first half especially, like you have to pay attention to the details, and he leaves so much up to the reader to interpret what's real, what's not, what's happening when. Like it's just the most interesting book I've ever read in my life, honestly. And I'm not just saying that because it's Logic, like because Logic's one of my favorite artists ever. I think he's extremely talented, but the fact that he wrote a novel and tied in this much thought into just this crazy far-fetched storyline, and I ended up passing along the book to a couple other girls. I think 4 other girls ended up reading this book because they thought it sounded so interesting. reading, and they weren't like Logic fans the way that I am, but they were like so just like amazed, and they might not have appreciated it the way that I appreciate it, but they thought it was an extremely interesting story. And you know, if you've got some free time, if you have to quarantine, if you have to do any of those things, I would highly suggest reading a book like this, because it is going to get your mind turning and thinking about things that you didn't even, coming from somebody who doesn't necessarily deal with schizophrenia or multiple personality, someone who's never experienced those internally, it really opened my eyes to those mental disorders, and just the reality behind it is so scary but so interesting. So I think what his vibe he was going for in this book is kind of a Quentin Tarantino type-esque, Tarantino-esque. I mean, not just like this, but like just the way it looks. Like this looks just like the beginning of a Tarantino movie. But if you know anything about Logic, you know that he is a huge Tarantino fan. It's just a really big inspiration to him. Definitely gives that vibe of like a crazy whacked out Tarantino movie. But there has been rumors about Logic teaming up with J.J. Abrams to write a script for a movie for this, and I think that would be so good. Like this into a movie would be amazing, but obviously the book is going to be bust. There's been talks about that for a couple of years now. Logic has hinted at doing some sort of film, so I would assume that it would be Supermarket. I would recommend this book to anybody, not anybody, I would recommend this book to anybody that's looking for kind of a thriller, but also an easy read and something that's gonna get your mind kind of turning. As long as you don't mind like profanity or explicit content. I don't want to say explicit in a bad way, because if this was a movie, like it wouldn't be rated R. It would just, there's just a lot of profanity, I guess, more than anything. I will read the back to you. It says, Flynn is stuck, depressed, recently dumped, and living at his mom's house. The supermarket was supposed to change all that. An ordinary job and a steady check. Work isn't work when it's saving you from yourself. But things aren't quite as they seem in these aisles. Arriving to work one day to a crime scene, Flynn's world collapses as the secrets of his tortured mind are revealed, and Flynn doesn't want to go looking for answers at the supermarket, because something there seems to be looking for him. A darkly funny psychological thriller, Supermarket is a gripping exploration into madness and creativity. Who knew you would find sex, drugs, and murder all in aisle 9? Pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't want to give away the entire plot unless you guys want my interpretation of like everything that's happening in the book. I will follow up with that, but right now I just want to inspire you guys to read it because it is so good. All right guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was informational, and I hope you learned something about my favorite book right now, Supermarket by Bobby Hall, aka Logic the rapper. And hopefully you guys buy this. I got it at Target in case you can't see the 20% sticker that I just never took off. I know you can buy it online. I know you can buy it at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million if those exist in your hometown. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching. I will catch you next time.